Today in the US, we are more stressed out than ever. Varying from study to study, we continuously rank among the highest percentages of depression and anxiety compared to other countries. How is this possible when we are an economic superpower and many of our citizens can have what we want at the snap of a finger? If you look at other countries that have higher rates outperforming us in terms of depression and anxiety, you notice other economic superpowers such as China and India. In recent years, both have adopted a similar system of consumerism to the United States. Maybe the ability to have whatever we want, when we want, is making us less free in terms of well-being. So how do we get back on track and secure our freedom as a state of well-being? Buddhist philosophy gives us resolution to these problems through nirvana, which is the ultimate state of well-being and achieved through abstinence of desire, because according to this philosophy, desire is the root of human suffering and causes us to live a lifestyle that harms ourselves and others. If we want to experience nirvana, we cannot continue to live a desire-based lifestyle. Nirvana is seen as the extinction of desire, hatred, ignorance, and ultimately of suffering and rebirth, literally meaning blowing out or becoming extinguished, as when a flame is blown out or a fire burns out. These ancient Eastern and still practiced teachings still lay valuable insight into our problems today. More than ever, we live in a state of wanting, a state of desire, and now we seem to be more stressed and sad than ever. So this desire without control and purpose in mostly Western countries and those that have adopted their practices has led to an intoxicating atmosphere of consumerism and rampant capitalism, which harms our environment. Being involved in this constant desire and consumerist lifestyle has inherently harmed us with a surplus of things we don't need. Consumerism, an article which discusses the matter, elaborates how extraction, manufacturing, large-scale agriculture, transportation, and the unsustainable exploitation of natural resources and fossil fuels has expanded waste streams of throwaway society, or in other terms, consumerist culture. So if our uncontrolled desires created this system of consumerism, we have also created the destruction of our planet. This desire leads us to buy cheap throwaway products that pollute our air and water with chemicals of destruction, all for us to throw them away when we see them for the useless garbage they are. We cannot continue to harm the place we call home by supporting the system that exploits and, dare I say, abuses less developed countries and the working class, not expecting it to damage our physical and mental well-being. The article continues to go on to explain the moral economic issues of the consumption-based market society, which has resulted in the loss of jobs as companies shift production and services to cheaper labor markets overseas, and the increased weight of debt and loans on consumers. By contributing to the mass production of non-essential things, we are also contributing to human suffering. We continue to invest in companies that treat and pay other countries and their citizens poorly, which according to Buddhism is detrimental to our being as a whole. If we ever want to free ourselves from mental unwell-being, we can no longer do this. Not to mention the strain it puts on our finances when we repeatedly waste money on cheap products. This is no doubt at the heart of lower and middle class American daily struggle and burden. The author finishes with this. Consumerism also produces disturbing social distortions, the veneration of acquisition, wealth, and the individual success, and corresponding erosion of the values of thrift, community, and civic involvement. Looking at the very core of rampant consumerism, it has unquestionably damaged us. It has messed with the social order of the community that drives us humans. It has diminished the focus on the community, the focus on our true desires, being replaced by superficial ones that caused consumerism in the first place. If we ever want to achieve nirvana, freedom, or whatever you want to call it, we have to really take a good look at this dangerous economy we have put in place that harms us by harming others. Let's be clear though, desire is not inherently bad for humans. Desire is bad when it doesn't have purpose. This form of desire is the root of suffering and causes us to invest in damaging systems. Desire with purpose helps us achieve freedom as a state of well-being because it brings us happiness and meaning. These beliefs are in contrast with Buddhist teachings. Yes, Buddhism and I share the understanding that uncontrolled desire is dangerous, but in a modern context, no desire is not possible. Buddhism does give us a fulfilling framework to live, as do many other religions, but should mold to meet the newer understandings we have as humans. See, in terms of desire, Buddhism would have you believe any form of it is bad and evil, whereas today we know that it is extremely hard for people to lead a life without individual purpose, which creates desire. So, intentional desires such as marriage, education, and even materials that are deeply important to us, such as books, records, plants, etc., are essential to our quest for well-being. These things can give us deep-rooted joy, unlike things caused by short-lasting desire, which overall cause us harm as seen in the environment, finances, and relationships. It is imperative to have desire with meaning and value that doesn't harm others or ourselves, as desire without meaning and value often does.
Do you have
Now, how do we rid ourselves of meaningless desire? Well, we should actively try to let go of the feelings that adhere solely to societal expectations, especially when it comes to owning unneeded materials and things that suppress our core desires. Damon Dominique, an influencer, blogger, business owner, and world traveler, explains in his blog that it isn't necessarily financials holding us back, but rather people, or as he would call them, gatekeepers. These gatekeepers can be a slew of many things, but at the end of the day, they are society and what's holding us back from freedom. He goes on and shares his experience with gatekeepers, and that the best thing to do is to transition their toxicness out of your life. Anyone who is holding you back from living life ain't worth living with. Whether it's a specific person, job, school, or community, if they are holding you back from your true desires and making you continue a cycle without purpose, you have to let their value in your life go. Freedom can be attained when we reflect on our surroundings and begin to make conscious steps to change them. One of these main things that needs to be changed is consumerism. In its place should be minimalism, which releases us to spend more time on our true desires and not products. We start to have more time for activities of enjoyment and pleasure rather than purchases that bind us to human suffering. As a lifestyle, it paves the way for us to be free in our unique and purposeful desires. Minimalism will rid us of the illness consumerism has on our mental well-being and give us the treatment to make it whole again. However, like religion, it should mold to meet the individual's lives. It can be just as trapping as consumerism in the sense of boredom. You can't begin to not own things for the sake of not owning them. Materials like photos, diplomas, and trophies can bring us joy and happiness. Minimalism, like our desires, has to have purpose. This purpose is our key. To achieve freedom as a state of well-being, the most important thing is the recognition of our life and our individuality. We must move away from consumerism, which stunts this recognition, and apply the elements of minimalism to our own lives, freeing us to focus on and live in what brings us real joy. This debate is age-old. As humans, we have always had the capability to give in to desires without purpose. We have always had true desires that make our lives more meaningful. But as countries like the US have industrialized, we let the false ones take over. The only way we can ever be free and start living for ourselves again is to rid ourselves of consumerism and begin to live a lifestyle of minimalistic ideals. We must begin to live for ourselves and not our things.